Hello, everyone. I apologize for the slight delay. This is the first time I've used YouTube and live, and it didn't go live. So I'm not quite sure what happened, but I'm now here, and there's 19 people online. So I hope, can you all hear me? Can somebody type a message if my audio is working okay? If somebody can just write something, that would be great. And I'm going to get going very quickly. But before other people arrive, just to let you know, my name is Nick B. Ponter, and I'm the author of Connor Jackson and the Memory Thieves. And okay, so yep, somebody's clapping so everybody can hear me. So welcome everybody, wherever you all are. And I know this was instigated from Zilka in Hattingen, and hopefully I'll be down there live when this situation with Corona is over. And I'm delighted to be here today to explain to you a little bit about my book. This is going to last about 25 minutes, and I'll do 3 short readings, and I'll describe a little bit about my book. But basically, Connor Jackson and the Memory Thieves, it's all about the secret world of moles. Yes, the secret world of moles. What do they do? The best thing for me to do is to read you the blurb on the back of the book to get everybody going. So let's get straight into action. Connor Jackson lives a quiet life in Lower Molehampton. He lives in the house he was born and brought up in, and apart from his secretive job as a civil servant, he pretty much lives an ordinary life. That is until one morning when Connor is woken up by something, so he decides to investigate. He notices a massive molehill in the middle of his back garden. Molehills have always been a feature in Lower Molehampton, but there appear to be more than ever now, and this one is huge. Upon closer inspection of this mountain molehill, which has appeared during the night, Connor discovers a glass jar sitting in the centre of the mound. Thinking nothing more than this being a strange occurrence, Connor hides the jar away and forgets about it altogether. That is, until a few months later, when late one evening Connor is ambushed in his home by 2 sets of intruders. Attempting to flee, he is eventually captured. Fearing for his life, and not knowing what these kidnappers want, Connor is thrown into a world which he never would have expected, into a world where he discovers the truth about life and death. Yes, Connor Jackson discovers a glass jar. And it's Professor Wingnut. But who is Professor Wingnut? And what have the moles got to do with it all? Well, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to be a spoiler to those who don't know the book yet, or to those who might want to watch more readings, hopefully. The moles actually control the world. They do a lot of things. They store our memories. They make sure that we come back as the correct life forms. And they steal things. They're a bunch of thieves. If you've ever wondered when you put your socks in the washing machine and they don't all come out, the moles, the thieving moles, are to blame. Now, a good friend of mine painted this lovely front cover as a picture, and which I've got hanging up on my wall. And I'm now going to describe or read to you the scene in which Connor finds the molehill. So you're here for the reading. So let's do some reading. Over to Connor Jackson. This is written in the first person from Connor Jackson's perspective. My bedroom window overlooked the garden, and, like my house, I did not put too much effort into making it look nice. I had very little interest in nice flowers, letting the plants in my garden naturally take over. Unlike my neighbour, Mr. Lawnsworthy, I'll tell you about him later, but I did at least keep it tidy. In June, my garden was in full bloom, accompanied by the twittering of birds and the early morning dew sparkling in the first rays of the sun. But something was different today, and the dew wasn't the only thing sparkling in the sun. I wasn't yet sure, but I could sense something was out of place this morning, and there it was. Right in the middle of my lawn was a big mound. I rubbed my eyes, squinted, and focused on the mound again. I don't know if I was imagining it, but I had the feeling that there was something like a small angular pipe protruding out of the top of the mound, just like a submarine's periscope. It appeared to be slowly turning 360 degrees and suddenly reflected in the sunlight. It was hard to see exactly what it was from this distance, but something was definitely there. I decided to have a look and put on my dark red dressing gown. I walked down my creaky wooden staircase into the kitchen and opened the door which led directly into the backyard. Right in the middle of the lawn was a huge mound of earth, dark brown, fresh, and still steaming in the sun. Damn moles, I cursed under my breath. I didn't really have anything against moles, not being the keenest gardener, but this was just too much. In the past, I had never had too many molehills, just now and then. But this one, well, this one was like the Taj Mahal of the mole world. It must have taken them the whole night to build it. Why me? Why my garden? I actually didn't know too much about moles, only what most people know. They are blind, dig tunnels, and leave their annoying earth hills in our gardens. But I must admit, I had never seen a mole in my entire life. It was then that I saw it again. Something glinted in the sun at the top of the molehill, but this time I was closer. Was that a piece of white metal at the top? I quickened my pace towards the molehill. Just at that moment, the object, which I had assumed was a type of periscope, turned directly towards me and stopped. So did I. Then the top of this huge molehill fell away and an object fell out, rolled down the side, leaving the top of the molehill open and exposed. The moles must have sensed that I was approaching and decided to dash for cover. But what was with these strange objects? With a sense of trepidation, I slowly walked the remaining meters across the lawn. Oh my goodness! The molehill nearly came up as far as my knee. Unbelievable. I heard molehills were good for aeration, but my garden was just fine and didn't need any extra assistance from these moles. A closer look revealed an upside-down glass jar lying halfway down the mound. What on earth? I mumbled to myself. This was most strange. I stooped down and carefully picked it up. It was a small glass jar with a white metal lid, just like a jam jar. The glass was dirty, dusty, and 1/3 of it was filled with a creamy sort of liquid. There was a plaster stuck directly on the outside of the glass with a name written on it, Professor Wingnut. This really was most strange indeed. Where had this come from? Had somebody been snooping around in my garden last night? Maybe thieves. Surely not in our sleepy, serene village of Lower Molehampton. The last reported burglary was 5 years ago when unknown assailants broke into Mr. Tinker's ironmonger store and stole his whole supply. In the same week, the glass jam jar factory in Lower Molehampton was also robbed of its entire supply of jam jars. It had the whole village in an uproar, and Sergeant Dawson had never found out who the robbers were. I looked at the jar in my hand, then at the molehill, and contemplated the connection between the two events. Don't be silly, Connor, I said to myself. What have they got to do with each other? It must be a coincidence. So there's my first reading of 3 today. Just a few minutes, because I don't think I should read too long, but I hope you enjoyed that little bit. That describes the front cover, and obviously Connor Jackson's entry into the story by finding the glass jar of Professor Wingnut. Now, if you haven't read my book or don't know too much about it, I shouldn't say too much at this stage, but the moles store all of our memories in glass jars, and somebody has stolen Professor Wingnut, who's quite an important person. Other people in the book. The mayoress of the village is called Felicity Forsyth Twike. Yes, the Forsyth Twike family, a lovely family. She's the mayoress, for the German speakers here, the Bürgermeisterin, and the owner of the meat factory. So, because you're here to listen to my story, I'm going to read you a very short bit of Felicity Forsyth Twike and Jemima Kingston, who is Connor's boss. Now, I'm a man, as you can see, and these are two women, so I'm going to do my best at doing women's voices. You can laugh along if you like. So, let's go. Oh, just how divine, squawked Felicity Forsyth Twike. Since when have you had this little darling? She added in a high-pitched voice. What's its name? This Felicity is Cromwell, replied Jemima Kingston. I've only had him since last week. It was rather strange. The doorbell rang on Thursday last week, and I found Cromwell just sitting on my doorstep, looking up at me. Nobody else was there, and also there was no note, just a dog collar with the name Cromwell on it. Really? Felicity Forsyth Twike replied, slowly and somehow sheepishly, but didn't look surprised when she said it. She coughed, composed herself, and carried on. One just doesn't abandon a dog on one's doorstep. Surely someone from that rabble at Lower Molehampton, she added haughtily. We from Upper Molehampton just wouldn't do anything like that. How could anyone? He's just so delightful. I love dogs. Our family has always had dogs. I'm sure you know it is a toy fox terrier, she said with the aloof authority of a school mistress. In fact, I just love all animals. Have you got anything to do with this, Felicity? You reacted as though you have a hand in it. Jemima, shame on you to utter such a thing. Of course not. And anyway, Felicity, it's a chihuahua, retorted Jemima smugly. Oh, I knew that. You know, they are very similar. Felicity Forsyth Twike now sounded a little defensive. Jemima looked at her with delight. And what's more, he's so cute I can carry him in my handbag and even take him to work. Jemima, dear, why the devil would you want to take him to that dreadful, ghastly place? It's full of bland and boring civil servants. Oh, darling Felicity, I am the manager of this place, and believe me, it is not all that dreadful and ghastly. Oh, so the rumours are true then? It's more than just a government office. Felicity, I wish you would stop listening to rumours. All we do is routine office work. Nothing sinister, as a lot of people imagine, Jemima said abruptly. And how is your business going, darling? Jemima was eager to change this unpleasant subject rather quickly. Animal lover, you said? Oh, absolutely. You know, I love animals. This meat industry is good for my pocket, and at least the animals have a purpose in their lives, Felicity added cruelly. And what purpose may that be exactly? Said Jemima urgently, wanting to know. Felicity frowned and looked serious. To make us happy, of course. Summer barbecues followed by the fattening up for Christmas. Peak time, Jemima dear. People just want to eat meat. More and more of it these days, and so they should. Eat and don't ask is my motto. So, some of the important characters in the book. Felicity Forsyth Twike, a lovely family name. Who else have I got in my book? Well, there's obviously Connor Jackson. There's Sergeant Dawson, the village policeman. There's Mr. Lawnsworthy. And for the German speakers here, I would translate that as Herr Rasenpingel. I think you can imagine what that person looks like and does. And, there's lots of other characters, dogs and cats and moles, of course. And Ludwig and Basil. So there's lots of different characters playing lots of different roles in this underground world. Before I read another piece, I just would like to thank Pegasus Publishers on there, see at the bottom, for giving me a contract to publish this book. The book was published in November last year, so thank you all very much. Rudita, if you're listening, thank you very much for all of your support in the publicity side of it. And let's carry on. At the moment, I am narrating or recording this book, so it will be out as an audio book, hopefully about July, so you'll get it in Audible. So this nice little bit with, oh, just how divine, you can listen to over and over again. Lovely women's voices. Yeah, thank you. I'll try to do some more. Maybe not today, but I do like doing that. That's one of my favourite pieces, Sylvia. It's actually good fun reading it. And also book number 2. I originally planned 4 books in the series: Connor Jackson and the Memory Thieves, Connor Jackson and the Food Factory, which is a direct follow-on, Connor Jackson and the Programmers, and Connor Jackson and the Eternity Project to finish it all off. Each story links on and follows on. Connor Jackson and the Food Factory is finished. It's all typed up. It's being checked at the moment by some friends. And hopefully sometime towards the second half of this year, end of the year, I can send it to Pegasus, and maybe we get it out next year, the second book. Who knows? So those are the exciting things I'm doing at the moment. Now, where is this story? It's obviously a made-up story, and I've got lots of imagination. The villages it's based on are not real. Lower Molehampton and Upper Molehampton. Those are the 2 main places. And I checked on the internet before I wrote it to make sure that these places really didn't exist, because I think the people would hate me if I'm ever famous and everybody goes there. And it's based also on a river called the River Angler. So I think I should read you a little bit which describes a little bit about the villages. Just have to find where they are. I've got lots of reading bits here for the lots of reading as I've done. Okay, now Connor Jackson lives in Trout Lane. And here we go. This is about the Molehamptons. Trout Lane is at the top end of Lower Molehampton and sits on top of a hill offering a perfect view of the whole area and surrounding streets. From my bedroom window, I have the view that I so love, a clear view of the River Angler, slowly meandering down the lush, steep-sided valley. In fact, I have a crow's nest view of the whole valley. Not only can I see the river, but I have a clear view over Lower Molehampton itself and its jam jar glass factory, meat processing plant, campsite and football pitch on my side, and Upper Molehampton with its castle ruin on the other side. I am sure that in its day the ruin would have imposed its control up and down the river. I can hear the car ferry clanking its way across the river on a steel cable as the Molehamptons no longer have a bridge. The Molehamptons are situated on a large sweeping bend in the river. Upper Molehampton is on the outside bend where the river is at its fastest, and over the years has carved out a steep side in the valley with a very narrow floor. Lower Molehampton is on the inside of the bend where the river is at its slowest and has created a wide floodplain over the years. As a result, Upper Molehampton is squeezed into a narrow stretch along the river and spread out up to the castle ruin. Lower Molehampton has the freedom of the floodplain and has, over the years, formed into a circular-looking town. Looking up the valley, away from the towns and ruin, I can see Mr. Rye's old stone farmhouse. It's on my side of the river and sits in the plain a few hundred meters from the river. At the same height as the farmhouse is a large, majestic willow tree, bending over the river like an old school headmaster imposing his will on a student. On this particular day, I could just make out a dog running around Mr. Rye's fields, barking loudly. I always wondered what it was like to be a dog. I mean, they really didn't have much to do and spent most of the day dozing around. In a way, I was quite jealous, because dogs didn't have any work to do, go shopping, do the cleaning, and many other things. In fact, everything was done for them. Many years ago, Upper and Lower Molehampton were united, but fierce rivalry between the villages led to the 2 sides of the river going their own way. Visitors today cannot see the rivalry, but for those living in the Molehamptons, it has always just been simmering below the surface. It all stems from the way the 2 sides of the river developed over the years. According to local folklore, there was once an all-powerful and ruthless lord who lived in the castle and had total domination over the whole area. His family lived on the side which is now Upper Molehampton, and the servants and the workers who tended his estate lived on the other side of the river, what is now Lower Molehampton. The noble family fell from grace, and the castle fell into ruin. The mayoress of Upper Molehampton, Felicity Forsyth, were not well known for her scruples, claims to be from the same stock as the noble family, through many distant relatives. Not only is she mayoress, but she is also the owner of the meat processing plant in Lower Molehampton. She supplies the whole region with meat and brokers no competition. So there's a little bit about the Molehamptons from Connor's view. The reading makes a lot of fun. Thank you very much, Angela. I'm glad you're enjoying it and everybody else here. How long have I been reading? I've been on for 20 minutes. I think we have time for one more. Do you want one more? I think so. Sergeant Dawson, the village policeman, and socks. I asked you at the beginning, when you put 10 socks in the washing machine, how many come out? 9. Yes, what happens to that other sock? And all other things which you see lying on the road and things like that, like a shoe and things. So, Sergeant Dawson, I'm going to introduce him, and he's in the village green. You will also hear Farmer Rye. He was just mentioned in a bit, and his dog Ludwig. So, just have to find that reading bit now. I can't remember where it was. I've got 9 here saved, so where is it? Nope. That's not it. Neither. Maybe number 5. Bear with me, please. Here we are. So, Sergeant Dawson. Wind and buffeting rain didn't make his evening any better. He looked miserable, and was miserable, as he sat down on the bench. Sergeant Dawson walked, not particularly in a straight line, from the Anchor Inn in Lower Molehampton, and decided to take a rest on his way home in the village green, which was actually very close to the pub. His week had been bad, really bad. From a well-respected local policeman to an utter incompetent fool in 1 week was no mean feat, and he had managed it with flying colours. His career and reputation were in tatters, and more importantly, his quiet life was over. He sat down with a slightly sozzled expression on his face and just stared at the ground. Maybe the wind had blown the litter right in front of his feet. The weather had been very bad lately. Sergeant Dawson looked up at the wind moving the branches and then fixed his gaze back to the ground. But there was nothing. From the corner of his eye, he saw that the rubbish had moved from the left of the bench to the right. A sock. No, 4 socks. He counted them carefully and slowly again and tried to focus on what he was looking at. The socks were open and filled with things which looked like a hairbrush and a pair of scissors. Why? He was confused. He was, in fact, not 100% sober, but he was sure that these objects were moving. Sergeant Dawson may not have been the quickest of cats, but he knew that something was out of place. "Stop it," he said out loud to himself, or anyone else who might be listening. "I might have had a few drinks, but I can see you very clearly. Stop!" He looked sharply to the left and gazed in that direction for a moment, and then quickly turned his head back to the right and to look where the socks were now. They were gone. He stood up and walked to the last place he saw them, stooped over and inspected the ground. There they were. "Stand still," he shouted again, and staggered towards the socks. "Stop moving!" He looked up at the trees and then back down at the ground. They had moved again. Up, down, up. They moved each time he didn't look. Not much, but enough for him to notice. They were now in a line about 10 meters in front of him. "Stand still! Who are you?" Sergeant Dawson was now screaming at the socks. "Been drinking, Sergeant?" came a voice from behind the bushes. What?" replied the sergeant. "Been drinking, I asked. You are making too much noise. It's after closing time, and especially you should know better than shouting around in the middle of the night." "Who's there?" asked Sergeant Dawson, squinting towards the streetlight. "It's me, Mr. Rye. What are you doing here?" "Looking for my dog, remember? My lawyer Ludwig went missing about a week ago. Never seen him since. Very strange, I must say." Sorry about that, but we really don't have the resources now. With Mr. Jackson and the Forsyth Twike girl disappearing, you can't imagine how much pressure I'm getting from her mother." "Yes, I can, as a matter of fact. But what are you doing here, Sergeant? And Who are you talking to? To the pair of scissors and to the hairbrush. They are moving over there. Been a hard week, I know. Mr. Rye looked at Sergeant Dawson pitifully. You could say that, but they are moving. Who is moving? Mr. Rye asked suspiciously. Well, the scissors, the brush, and the socks, of course. Okay, I really should take you home and let your wife take care of you, said Mr. Rye softly. You don't believe me? Look yourself, insisted Sergeant Dawson, and pointed to the ground. Look at what? Well, the socks over there. But there's nothing to see. Sergeant Dawson's head darted towards the ground to the left and then to the right. Where are you? His voice was panic-fueled now. Come on, where are you? He stumbled across to the bench, slumped down with a disenchanted face, and stared at the ground with his head in his hands. Poor old Sergeant Dawson. So, I have now read 4 short parts of the book, which for today I think it is enough. 26 minutes I think is probably enough. But if you want me back live on YouTube, I could carry on and do this maybe next week or the week after if we have time to advertise it. So do you want more? Not today. Encore. I've got lots more little bits in the book, as you can see. And I'm more than happy to come back on and do another live YouTube reading if you want more. But we're still live for a few minutes. So if we got the chat going, I won't type, I'll just answer. So Angela, please. Okay, then we've got one person who says please, so I'll be back. If the time is okay, maybe Thursday next week is a public holiday. In Germany anyway. But don't worry, I will advertise it and send it around. If you have any questions about me, about my book, about me, anything, just ask on the chat, please, and I will answer. Martina, thank you. Very interesting. You're welcome, Martina. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It gets even more interesting, I can guarantee you. Definitely. That's just a little bit. So, any questions from anybody? But I would like to thank Zilka from Hattingen for organising today. It was actually her idea. Up until now, I've been reading live on Instagram, and I actually didn't know that you could do it on YouTube. And it's actually better because you don't need a login. You can just click on the link and go in. So I feel like the sergeant at times. I can understand that, yes. From the drink or losing socks? Losing socks. So thank you very much, Zilka, for arranging it, and hopefully we can advertise it. And if anybody wants me to come back, I think I definitely will next week. Nicole, thanks a lot for this great reading. Tomorrow I will order it in my favourite little bookshop. Yeah, great. Thank you very much for supporting me. Are you on your tour in the Ruhrgebiet anytime? I would love to in normal times. At the moment, I think it will be difficult to visit, but as soon as the restrictions are lifted, I will be in touch with Zilka and down to the Ruhrgebiet. I'm usually in Dortmund working every Friday, so easy for me to come by and do a reading on a Friday evening. But I'll be in touch with Zilka. As soon as the restrictions are lifted, I'll be there. It only takes me about 90 minutes to come down. Any other questions from anybody? If not, I said I'll do about half an hour, so I'm pretty there. Oh, where? Okay, Dino, good question. Where do you come from? Okay, originally I was born in a little village near Windsor in England. Windsor, you probably know from Windsor Castle, where the royal family live, about 40 kilometres west of London. But I left home when I was 16, and by the age of 18, I was in Germany, and I lived in Germany for 10 years. Then I moved to Bangladesh for 2 years, Pakistan for 4 years, back to Germany, and I now live near Bielefeld, which is between Dortmund and Hanover in northwest Germany. Thanks for doing it, Silke. You're welcome. It's all my pleasure, and I'd be delighted to come back and do another one with a little bit more readings. And, of course, to finish off, you probably want my favourite phrase of the book. Oh, just how divine! Squawked Felicity Forsyth Twike. So, I hope you all have a very nice evening. If there are no other questions, I will be back, definitely. So just look on the normal channels, my YouTube channel, and you'll see everything. So proud of you. Thank you very much, Christy. I am of you too. Smiley from Martina. Smiley back. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice evening. Oh, Alex. Quel talent. Merci. De rien. Any other countries here? We've got somebody from Alex from France. Germany, obviously. South Africa. England. So a few people. So have a lovely evening, everybody. I'm now going to, unfortunately, click on the end stream, but I'll be back and I'll advertise. So have a lovely evening and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.